I'm standing there, and eventually he looks at me, and this motherfucker says this straight face to me, okay? And I immediately knew something was up. He looks at me and he says, you know, you've got a really common name, you know, Dylan Burns. There's like a single door and a smaller metal table in there, and with one chair on one side, one chair on the other, and a hanging light bulb above. And I'm like, ah, shit, that's the torture room. Hijab, 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 full beard, hijab. And I'm sitting there, and then I realize, and I swear to God, I said this out loud, not super loud, but I said, holy shit, I've just been Muslimed. Okay, so obviously, I'm gonna talk about this interview, the CIA interview, okay? Because, look, I didn't expect to cause as much of a stir as they caused once they looked at my passport and they looked at my getup. Because, to be clear, let me turn off the music. I was getting off the plane. Let me tell you about the CIA interview, okay? Let me tell you guys about this, because this is pretty cool. Well, actually, it's not cool, but I'll talk about it anyway. So, I was getting off the plane from Warsaw to Miami. I get off the plane. It was over a 10-hour plane ride. That's on top of the tons of hours it took me. Let me be clear. I went from Kiev. I took a train from Kiev to Lviv. Then it took a bus from Lviv to Warsaw, which included a border crossing. So that's a bitch. Okay, that sucks. I then took a plane from Miami to from Warsaw to Miami. So that's a lot of traveling. It was like 3 days of just straight travel. And so I finally landed in Miami, and the only thing on my mind when I got off that plane was like, I just want to get to this hotel. I just want to pass out, and I want to order Chipotle, because for the last 2 months, all that was been on my mind is Chipotle. That when I get back to the United States, what I want to do is I want to get some Chipotle. I don't know why. I missed ordering Chipotle from my time, you know, back in my old apartment. I missed just ordering Uber Eats and DoorDash and just being able to pick out. I missed that, okay? So I get off the plane, and I walk up to the customs people, you know, and they're checking everybody's passport. And everybody's passport check was like this. It was like this. Where are you coming from? Warsaw, okay. Why are you here? Okay. Welcome back. Next. That was everybody's, okay? This is what the agent did when I walked up. Now, I need you to understand, I had this brown jacket on and sweatpants and this shirt that I'd been wearing probably for 3 days at that point, if I'm being completely real, because it's just been nonstop travel. And I only had the one thing of clothes because I only had one bag on me, and I left all my other clothes back in Ukraine because I just don't want to have to bring a ton of clothes every time I go back to Ukraine. And so I walk up to the agent, and I got this beard. The beard's gone now, but I have this like scraggly beard. I look tired, and I look tired, and I look mean. Maybe I could have possibly looked mean because I was just like looking at him like this. Now I don't know if that's mean, okay, but that's how I looked. Okay, get the scraggly beard. I look tired. I look mean, maybe, possibly. Depends on your interpretation. I've got this brown jacket, hands in the pockets, and this like military bag and sweatpants. And he looks at me. He says, look at the camera. He takes a picture, and he looks at my passport, and he's flipping through all of it, like every single page. Like he's taken a lot more time with my passport than he took with the other people's passports. He's going like, now, I know there's not those many stamps on my passport, okay? I know there's like 6 or 7, okay? There's like 6 or 7 stamps because this is the only journey I've been on with this passport, right? I went to Poland, I went to Ukraine, then I left Ukraine, back into Poland, then I came back to the States. That's everything that's on my passport. There's nothing else of value in this passport, so I do not know why it was taking so long. Anyway, I'm standing there, and eventually he looks at me, and this motherfucker says this straight face to me. Okay? And I immediately knew something was up. He looks at me and he says, you know, you've got a really common name, you know, Dylan Burns. So it's very common. So I'm gonna have to ask you to go down this line and talk to the agents over there. And I look at him and I'm just thinking, like, Dylan Burns is too common of a name. So you have to interview me more than everybody else. The person in front of me's name was John Brown, to be clear. And I heard him say it. His name was John fucking Brown. And my name was too common that they had to fucking take me out of line and fucking send me over. And I look him in the face and I just say straight up, this is about my name. It isn't about Ukraine. And he's like, and he looks at me like, he almost looked offended. Like, what? No. This happens all the time. And so he puts like a sticker on my passport. He's like, pah. And he's like, gives it to me. He says, go down that line. And to be clear, I hadn't seen a single person. I was like waiting in line for the customs agent for a good 20 to 30 minutes. I hadn't seen a single person go down the line. I was the only one off the entire fucking plane from Warsaw to get on that line. And when I tell you that line brought me down a maze, I mean it. I swear to God, I went through, it took like 10 minutes to walk down this line. I went like through the whole building. And then I get into this room and I look around and I swear to God, it was like hijab, full beard, hijab. And I'm sitting there and then I realize, and I swear to God, I said this out loud, not super loud, but I said, holy shit, I've just been Muslimed. Like, oh my God. Because the thing is that, that's the thing, right? If someone will look at, oh, your name is Mohammed Nazir. Oh, well, you've been chosen for a standard check, you've been chosen for a standard check procedure, right? And unironically, that's what they said to me when I walked up and they told me to sit down. Like, oh, yep, you've just been chosen for a standard run of the mill. This happens. You were chosen at random. They even told me I was chosen at random. And I was like, oh my God, the dishonesty, man. I walk up to the person. He's like, you were chosen at random. He takes a look at my passport, does the same thing, the whole. Yeah, you were chosen at random. You can sit, standard procedure. Just sit down. And so I sit down there and I'm thinking to myself, like, I haven't eaten in so long. I am so hungry. I'm just sitting in the room. I'm looking around and it's like 80% of the room was Muslim, right? And I'm like one of 3 white people in the entire room. And I'm like, damn, man, I've been Muslimed. And I'm not saying that as like a derogatory. I'm just saying I almost felt profiled. Now, to be clear, at least I have a good reason to be in the room. Like I came from a war zone, and so I wish they weren't giving me the runner about it and telling me, oh, your name is just too common, Dylan Burns. How many times have you guys seen somebody with the last name Burns in your life? Anybody? And does anybody in chat know anybody else with the last name Burns? And that's the thing. He told me that the name Burns was too common. Burns. Not Dylan. Burns. There's not that many people named Burns. I'm gonna be for real. If my name was like John Doe, John Brown, the guy in front of me's name was John Brown, and he didn't get chosen, so he just lied to me. The agent lied to me, okay? They lied to me. Let's be for real with you guys. They lied to me to maybe make me feel more comfortable or to stop me from running or something. Like they thought I was gonna say like a Slava Ukrainian. I was gonna take out a suicide vest and go and like kill us all. I don't know what they thought. Anyway, I'm sitting in the room with all these other unfortunate souls who have been stuck there. And eventually I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna miss Chipotle. I guess I'm gonna be late for my wonderful Chipotle. All I want is Chipotle, okay? All I want is Chipotle. And eventually they say, Dylan Burns, please walk to the desk. I'm I'm like, okay. And I walk to the desk and they're like, you're gonna go with this gentleman right here. And they bring me into this room. And when I tell you this room was big, it was like half the size of like a basketball like stadium, it felt like. But there was nobody in there except a single metal table. A single metal table. And I'm like, oh. Okay. Like it was like a single metal table in this gigantic ass room in the airport. Yeah, this is all in the airport. I mean, when you guys think about it, how big are airports? You could hide a lot of shit in airports. Charles Manson could have done his whole operation in an airport, like in a part of the airport no one's ever been to, and no one would have noticed, right? And so he goes on the other side of the table, and the dude is the chillest guy on the planet. Let me be clear. This guy was chill, like super, super, super chill. Okay. And so he's just, yeah, can you put out your stuff, take out your stuff, just put it all on the table. And so I put my bag on the table. He starts going through and he starts asking me questions. He's like, where are you coming from? Like, Ukraine. He's like, oh, Ukraine. What were you doing in Ukraine? I was like, oh, I was filming and I was taking photos, and like, oh, what parts of Ukraine were you in? And I was like, I was in Kramatorsk, I was in Kharkiv, I was in Mykolaiv, I was in Kiev, Lviv. I was in basically every major non-occupied city. And I just keep answering these questions. He keeps asking them one by one, and he's like, oh, so like, what are you, like a journalist? And he's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of a journalist. I'm a live streamer. He's like, oh, a live streamer, like YouTube? It's like more Twitch, but I'm also on YouTube. He's like, and I just end up just fucking showing him photos and videos of me in the country, like going through it. As he's asking me, like, and I mean, like, he's asking me like every question. He's like, oh, what's that tattoo stand for here? He starts asking to see all my tattoos. He was looking for like some fucking like I don't know, but like some fucking Al-Qaeda tattoos. He's like, what's that tattoo stand for right there? He's like, and I'm like, oh, he's like, because he thought this was some military shit. He thought this was like this was like part of I was like part of some fucking Splinter Cell group because of this tattoo right here. This is, for those of you who don't know, this is my stalker tattoo from the video game. I love the game a lot. And he was like, yeah, I done goofed with that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get Remember, guys, I said I'm not gonna get stalker on my arm because people might think I'm a sex offender. So I'm gonna get this in Ukrainian, so people like, Ukrainians would understand it's from the video game, but instead it just made me look like a terrorist. And I was like, okay. But then, like, you want to know what the worst part was? He was like, because I show him like these tattoos, and eventually I gotta show him the tattoo on my back. And I almost felt like I had to warn him about the tattoo on my back. And for those of you who don't know, I got a tattoo on my back that is a little vulgar, I don't know if I've showed all of you guys this tattoo. But like, let me pull it up. And I knew immediately when I showed him this, he was gonna think I was like an Azov agent, right? Because like the tattoo is it's fucking that. And so I show him this shit. And I'm like, look, okay? There's nothing illegal about this tattoo. There's nothing illegal about it, okay? There's nothing illegal about this tattoo. It's like, oh my God. It's a cool tattoo, man. It's a cool tattoo. But if you're like a customs border patrol agent, right? And you're trying to figure out if you've got a terrorist on your hands, like at least like that tattoo, all that says to you is this guy really fucking believes in whatever he believes in. And he starts asking me, why are you over there, right? And I was making sure, he was like, what do you believe in? Why were you over there? And I was making sure not to use any words that would be like, well, I just want to get my hands on some, like I wanted to, like I was like, I ideologically agree with the, do the whole spiel. Like, I agree. I believe it's the front line in the struggle for democracy. I believe Ukraine has a right to rule itself and be free and be sovereign. I'm against all the war crimes that the Russian government did and all that. And eventually, he's like, okay, we need to walk into this office. And he points over there. And I look over there, and in this big ass room, there's like a single door. There's like a single door and a smaller metal table in there, and with one chair on one side, one chair on the other, and a hanging light bulb above. And I'm like, ah, shit, that's the torture room. Ah, shit, that is the fucking torture room. And so I get my stuff, I put it over my shoulder. And then you want to know what I also remembered? And he missed this. But I had $800 in cash in my bag, right? Now, I understand that might look slightly suspicious if you have a large sum in cash in a military-style duffel bag as you're coming from a war zone. That's not illegal. It's not, again, nothing I had on me or with me or around me is illegal. Nothing. But it might look slightly suspicious. Now, the reason I had $800 is because a friend of mine in Ukraine had a lot of those new $100 bills that don't have like the strip on it, the anti-piracy strip, the anti-illegal money printing shit strip. And he wanted all the old bills exchanged for new bills. So I said, sure, I'll take it with me back to the States. My grandfather used to work at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. I'll get them exchanged. But I realized, like, fuck, man. Man comes from war zone with large sums of cash and like skulls and like what looks like radical ass tattoos all over. It's like, okay, 800 is no big deal. Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be that big of a deal, but this is the stuff going through my head. So I sit down in the room, and all that's in the room is like this folder with like that he opens up and he starts looking into, and he starts asking me all these questions like, who's your mother? Who's your father? Have any siblings? What's your address? And I'm like, oh my fucking God. I'm just straight up gonna get interrogated. That's what it became. It became an interrogation. Again, the dude was the nicest, chillest dude in the world. He seemed semi-interested in my work, but it's impossible to tell if he was being genuine or not, which I kept into consideration the whole time I talked to him. And he's like, who'd you communicate with while you were in Ukraine? And then eventually he's like, do you have any accreditation? I'm like, yep, here's my Ministry of Defense accreditation to show I was with the Ministry of Defense recognized me as a journalist. And he just keeps asking me so many questions. And eventually he's like, who are some foreign nationals that you talk to on a regular basis? And I'm like, well, I've got an editor, a French editor named Mr. Geek. He's like, Mr. Geek? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, what's his real name? And I'm like, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck, I don't know his real name. Like, I don't know I know his first name, but I don't know his full name. He's worked for me for almost 3 years. I don't know his full name. But of course I don't know his full name, right? Most people, like, if you have an internet moniker, like, you probably don't. Like, if I ask you guys, what's Sansol's full name? Do any of you guys know? What about Gappy? Do you guys know Gappy's full name? IRI's? Stardust? Any of these people? No, none of you know their full name, do you? You little fake fans. Of course you don't. So I'm just sitting there like, it's just an internet moniker. He's like, do you know anybody else? Yeah, Danabo. And I'm like, fuck again. No. So I'm like, eventually I cave and I'm like, well, I can give you a contact of a guy by the name of like Patrick Hillsman, who, can verify any of this information I've given you. And like, that's the only person and their contact info that I would give them. Cause I was not going to get him. And I didn't want to give him anybody from Ukraine. Because the last thing I wanted to do was get anybody in Ukraine involved in this. So I gave him to a friend, the contact number of a friend that I knew that could verify everything I was saying, that was with me while I was in Ukraine, and I knew they wouldn't care. But eventually he was like, what like messaging platforms do you use? What do you, how do you talk to these people? And I'm like, well, sometimes I communicate through, all this, that, this, and this. And I said Discord, and he was like, huh, Discord, I've never heard of that. Now, the thing is, earlier in the conversation, he told me that he used to work at Google. And so when I heard he didn't know Discord, I was like, you said you used to work at Google? And he's like, well, yeah, but like when I, I was, it was 10 years ago. I was like a lower level Google employee. And I was like, And I just kind of, let him explain himself. And I was like, okay, got you. Okay, sure. Okay, yeah. Okay, I used to work at Google and you have no clue what it is. Okay. Press X for doubt. But I was just sitting there like, okay, why not? And eventually, and this is when I was like, this might be the part of the meeting that extends this forever. Eventually, because my philosophy is just be honest, just be open, but don't give information that you don't need to give. That's the best way you can deal with any of these types of situations. Definitely if it's customs and you're coming in from a war zone, because it got to be for real, right? I'm coming in from a war zone. So it's not like unrealistic or unreasonable that they took me aside to talk to me, right? It's not crazy that they did this, right? Like, nobody's like, oh my God. They were bullying. Like, I came from a war zone, an active war zone that I was in for a very long time. And I didn't look like a nice guy. I looked kind of scary. I'm going to be for real coming in. With like the jacket and the beard. Not that that should matter, but you know, that's how I looked. And so eventually I let slip that I use an encrypted messaging service, which I do, right? In order to communicate with some people. And they're like, oh, who did you communicate with on that platform? And I just straight up say, I can't tell you. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm not going to tell you. I just can't. I can't tell you. He's like, why won't you tell me? And the reason I can't tell you is the reason I use this encrypted messaging platform is because I communicate with people on it who don't want these messages to be public, who don't want these messages to be hackable, who don't want these messages to be easily accessible. I'm talking to people, many of which are in occupied territory or interviewees who want to be keep their lives private. I use encrypted messaging softwares in order to communicate my location to people, and so I can't give you that. I can't. I'm not giving it to you. He's like, okay, understandable. In my line of work, we have to do something very similar. Yeah, I remember at one point he said, like, I don't know if I forget exactly what the context was, but he said, me as an immigrant and a law enforcement agent, I get the worst of both worlds. I'm just. Man, it was such an interesting. I was there for like at least an hour and a half. I was interviewed. I was there for like an hour and a half. Probably. Yeah, it was probably like an hour and a half, right? I wonder if there's anything else I'm forgetting. So I have to write down my father's name, my mother's name, the name of my siblings, give him my address. I got to give him my phone number. I got to give him my email. I need to give him my social media accounts. That surprised me. I had to give him my Twitter account. He wanted my Instagram and all that. I just gave him my Twitter because it's my most popular one.
Morally corrupt, bankrupt man.
He was going to go look at my YouTube later, double check that I was who I said I was. I Googled my name in front of him to say, look, it's not a fake name, Dylan Burns. I did the whole shebang. And eventually he's like, okay. He might be watching right now. We don't know. I'm like, okay. We wrap it up. And on the way out, he's recommending me Miami nightlife. You should go here. He's like, what hotel? But then as I'm leaving, he's like, wait a second. What hotel are you staying at? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh shit. I'm like, why does he need to know that? Why does he need to know what hotel I'm staying at? He needs to know my exact location for the next 5 to 6 days. Oh, that's interesting. Damn, yeah, he might be in chat. He might be in chat. By the way, he's not. The reason I said CIA agent is because I couldn't fit Customs and Border Patrol agent in the title. But he was a U.S. Customs agent. He wasn't a CIA agent. I just said that to be, kind of it's easier to sell. Yeah, CBD agent. But he might not ironically be in the chat right now. Dude, there's a file on me now. There's 100% a file on me. I created a file. I have a file for me. I had to fill out paperwork. Anyway, he's like, where are you staying at? And I'm like, oh, and I say the place I'm staying at. He's like, I don't know exactly where that is. Can you show me? And I was like, I have to go through my emails to show my exact location. My exact hotel. I'm saying, well, so where are you speaking at? And I'm like, okay, I'm speaking at this conference, and I have to give him my hotel, and I gotta give him that. So I don't know, in the next fucking hour, I could have someone kick down the door, and be like, Dylan Burns, you're under arrest for arms trafficking. Who knows? And I had to give him that, but then he recommended me Miami nightlife. Again, generally, I think he was nice, right? I think he was a nice guy. I think he was just doing his job. And I do want to be clear that I don't think it's out of the ordinary for people to interview guys coming home from war zones and be like, so what were you doing in a war zone, huh? But I wish they were more honest about it throughout the whole process. That's the one thing that got to me, is I felt like the whole time I was getting my chain yanked, that I knew why I was in the room. I knew why they picked me out of the line. I knew why they sent me on this grand adventure through Customs and Border Patrol policy or whatever the fuck. But I wish the whole time, instead of telling me, oh, your name is too common, we need to, like, fuck off. It's not my name. I'm the only one in this entire plane that's coming from a war zone, and you just so happened to pick me and not the person in front of me named John fucking Brown. John Brown, man. John Brown, man. How common of a name is John Brown? It's like 2 letters from being John Doe, man. And you picked me? Chad John Brown walking by, doesn't give a fuck in the world. Anyway, so that's the one thing that angered me. I wish they were just honest with me that the reason they picked me out of the line was because I'm coming from a war zone and they just want to make sure that I'm like not a terrorist. Like, I know that's like a weird way to put it, but like I wish that's what they did. They to double check that I was not smuggling weapons or like, I don't know, like some sort of Russian agent or Ukrainian agent or whatever, right? Oh God, there's a few more things I wanted to say. That's the one thing that angered me, because I asked him, like during the interview, when the interview was ending, I looked at him like this. Can you be honest with me? And he's like, what? And I'm like, can you be honest with me? It's not my name, is it? He's like, oh no, man, I like your name. Burns, it's a cool Burns. I love The Simpsons. I was like, no, man. I'm like, it's not my name. Like, too common of a name. Really? Like, really? Like, it was because I'm coming back from Ukraine. And he kind of was like, well, he basically did everything he could to not say, yes, it was because you were from Ukraine, but also would not reaffirm that it was my name. And so basically he kind of like danced around the question a little bit, Of course it wasn't my name. It's because I'm coming back from a fucking war zone.
Burns is an
morally corrupt, bankrupt man. Pog is 84. Thank you so much. Did you debate him? A little bit. I kind of debate broed him a tiny bit. Because, like, dude, it's not my name. Like, come on, just be for real. It's not my name. Just, it's because I came from a war zone. Like, everybody else would 100% understand why. Like, you guys understand why they. Like, nobody in here thinks it's unreasonable that they interviewed me, right? Does anybody in here think it's unreasonable? Or am I cucking for the government a little bit by saying it's normal? Yeah, I debate bro to federal agent. It's normal. This is normal, right? This is normal. Like, you're coming back from a war zone. Like, you're gonna interview this person, right? It's K. Not at all. Seems normal. It is not surprised. No, not weird. Which you did well to get anything out of him. They aren't supposed to show their cards. Well, he was being chill. I don't think he was like, of course, like, he could just have been nice to me because he's being nice to me. It makes sense for you. Not at all weird. I'm kind of drunk. Okay, thank you. It's fine. It's normal. Very not unreasonable. Yeah, it's not unreasonable. At the very least, I'm not like outraged, right? Like, if I was coming back, if this happens to me every time, it might start to get annoying, right? Which it probably will, sadly. But like, I just wish they were honest with me about the process and not say, like, I wish he was just like, hey, you're coming back from Ukraine. That's an active war zone. We we by policy have to ask you some questions to make look out for everybody's safety, yada yada. Like, that would have been perfectly fine. Would have been like, okay, that's normal. But the whole like, oh, your name, like that pissed me off. That made me not trust anybody I was interacting with past that point. Because past that point, I was like, these people can and are willing to lie to me. That's what it felt like. This person is 100% willing to lie to me. So now I felt I was almost like a little bit on guard, because I was scared that if I let something out, they might like con me or something. Like, not con me, but like me being honest might be actually like a downfall for me, because what if I say something that I didn't know was like I start getting relaxed and chill because this guy's so nice to me. I let something out I'm not supposed to let out or something, and then boom, I'm fucked. The one thing I will say that I really did like about the interview is when I said, I will not give you this information, he didn't push it. When I was like, all of my encrypted communications I will not discuss with you. I will not under any circumstances give up any of my encrypted communications and or tell you who I talk to with my encrypted communications. I will not. And he didn't push anymore. He was like, okay. And that was good. Don't talk to cops, not even plane cops. True. True. Never, don't trust the plane cops. Don't trust them, man. They've been everywhere. To be fair, they might already have, might have the info, other ways to get it. I mean, they're not gonna get my encrypted communications. CIA, bunch of biotechs that will use you, don't talk to them. I'm fine. Like, I'm gonna do this in the future, and I live in the United States, so I'd rather like have a cordial back and forth than like, and like, there's no reason. Why would the CIA be angry at me? They have no reason to be angry at me. Why would the federal government hate me for what I'm doing? They have no reason to. So they have no reason. Like, if I was Al Qaeda, then maybe I would be like, maybe I shouldn't talk to. But I'm not. I'm just a Twitch streamer. You know, I watched Chernobyl on the plane ride, and during the end of it, there was like the scene where the head of the KGB communicates with one of the Chernobyl science people. And in it, like afterwards, the KGB agent kind of like blows him off, like, because the guy, it didn't kill him or do anything to him, because he just was like, this guy's not a threat. Because this guy's like kind of like an idiot, he's clumsy, he's like whatever, who cares about him? And I feel a little bit like that, like I'm just a Twitch streamer, like I'm no threat, like I'm a threat to nobody, right? I'm just a Twitch streamer. Ooh, I'm not smuggling any weapons. I'm just so innocent. I'm not smuggling any weapons for Kraken. I don't know what you're talking about. What? Georgian Legion. I barely met her. Like who knows? I'm just a silly little guy. I'm just a silly little guy. You know. Anyway, there's one last thing I wanted to say. What was it about the interaction? Oh God, I lost it. I lost it. He did talk to me a little bit about, he's like, look, you're not the first guy from Ukraine that I've talked to. We got a lot of people coming back from over there who fought, man. You're like, I saw your get up, I saw you with the jacket, I saw your bag, I saw the camera stuff, and I immediately knew what probably was going on. I just needed to confirm that with you, right? But yeah, you're not the first guy from Ukraine or coming back from Ukraine to come through here, the Miami airport. I've talked to a lot of guys who went over there to fight. You know, a lot of guys who believe in that struggle. And I'm seeing a lot more Russians. And I'm like, really? A lot more Russians. Like, yeah, man. There's a lot of people coming over here. A lot of Russians now, out of like, just have been popping up. Like, a lot of Russians are coming to Miami now. I'm like, Miami? He's like, yeah. And I've interviewed a bunch. I'm like, holy shit. So many Russians are fleeing from conscription that they're not only ending up in Georgia and Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, all these other locations, you know, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. They're ending up in fucking Miami. In Miami, man. And I remember he did say something along the lines of like, you know, I mean, we see so many Ukrainians and Russians come in. It's kind of like, you know, like, why can't you all just kind of get along? And I'm like, and I don't say anything, but I'm like, yeah, man, I wonder why. We'll never figure that one out. We'll never figure that one out, will we?